People, deluded. Now, as an Arsenal fan, I want to say this is the last time I'm going to speak about Emery and Ozil, or Ozil and Emery. Realistically, it's not. Now, if we go based on the last few days, Ozil is again leaning towards a move to the MLS. Apparently, you're seeing reports come out of Turkey with the Fenerbahce and things like that. And actually, reports saying that Emery is freezing him out in Turkey as well. Today, you've probably come across, well, yesterday, you've probably come across reports saying that Ozil is being frozen out in relation to the strategy of the club. Now, that is what a lot of us think anyways. But personally, and I'll get onto it, I feel Emery's personally got to be careful because it's ultimately his hill to die on. There's several players that I feel he's dying on hills he shouldn't, but Emery ultimately is the fall guy. I'm not saying he's being set up to fail and things like that, but in relation to this Ozil stuff, I'm going to say the club clearly want to get rid of him. But all we speak about is directly Ozil and Emery. What Emery's doing to Ozil, what Ozil's doing to Emery. And the longer our form keeps remaining sticky and whatnot, and Ozil's not in the side, and not that Ozil's the messiah, but in terms of creativity, the longer you don't use him, and if something doesn't change in January, Emery's the fall guy. Like, he's the manager. Fans, it's sad, but football fans don't look over what they can see with their eyes. Raul, Edu, these Kroenke, they're not going to be the fall guys for Mesut Ozil, this whole Mesut Ozil thing. It's going to be Emery. And when you consider him, the use of Xhaka, how he's always in the team, Aubameyang always crossing for Torreira, and Torreira's in balanced form, I feel Emery's got to be very careful with how he's managing certain players in the side and how he's doing it, because I'm not saying Ozil is going to get in top 4, but in terms of creativity, at least now till January, are you going to tell me based on current evidence that Ozil couldn't have contributed in some degree? I'm not saying he's going to be the messiah. He turns these L's into W's, but it's a hell of a hill to die on, because at the end of the day, Raul Sanllehi, Ozil has no impact on him. Do you get it? We know clearly the club, some members of the club had reservations about Mesut Ozil signing a contract before these lot came. And let's be honest, some people wanted them to. And let's also be honest, I didn't want Ozil and I wanted them both to stay. I definitely didn't want both to leave on a free, because what message was that was sent? Arsenal clearly overpaid and gave him a massive contract to obviously, to a degree, appease fans, and you can't keep them all happy. Potentially in hindsight, because of Alexis's form and how Ozil's been, might have been wise to get rid of them. But we know the club probably didn't want to give him that contract, potentially want to move him on. If it was previously where Wenger was here and Ozil was playing frequently, it'd be whispered about. But I feel the club see it as Ozil's barely... Emery doesn't want to use Ozil, doesn't believe in him anyways. We don't. So let's use this as an opportunity to move him on. I do feel a lot of it is with Emery, but at the same time, it's above his pay grade. The decision has been made to move Ozil on or freeze Ozil out. At least do something to force Ozil's agents to rectify the situation come January, people, because Ozil isn't... If you look at it as an isolated incident away from football, it's the best job ever. Let's be honest, Ozil... Yes, footballers get paid a lot of money, but they want to play. But if we isolate it, yeah, 300, however much a week, and you're not playing, that's the best job ever. For Arsenal, it is kind of silly to a degree, really, that we're forking out this money and we're not using him in any capacity, because, again, it's not my money. Again, it's still going to be given to him, but it don't make sense, really. Surely, for a club that's as prudent or needs to worry about their resources, should at least use him to January when the situation can be changed or alternated and whatnot. They want to move him on because we've done a good job in terms of moving players on this summer anyways, and in terms of freeing up wages, Ozil will free up further wages on top of freeing up wages, underperforming, and just the game has left him. And in terms of the project, Ozil's not going to be here long enough. He's turning 31. It makes sense to move him on, but I do think the more we move on, the club have got to come out. 1 second, people. Oh. Apologies, people. I thought I heard a knock on my door. I'm expecting a package. But like I said, the longer this goes on, people, it's a hell of a hill to die on for Emery. And Emery is going to be the fool guy, ultimately. It's the same way with coaching players and playing young players and things like that. And what I mean, not necessarily young players. What I mean specifically by that is, Emery, coaching's a big part of this job, innit? Like, ultimately, Mustafi's not playing, but Mustafi isn't good enough, for example. But how Emery coaches certain individuals and gets the best out of them in the team, there's no way escaping that. And Emery must have known that. Like, it is a very delicate situation, this Mesut Ozil thing, and I think the club have got to come out and say something. Like, just come out and say he's not part of our long-term plans. We're trying to move him on. Obviously, not in, I don't know if you could say that in a direct way, people, of course, but it's not helping anyone. It's not helping the fans. It's not helping the club. It's not helping Ozil. It's not helping Emery. 1 week is one thing, then it's enough. 1 week he's training and playing well in training and he's ready. Next week there's other players who are working harder. And to a degree, clearly they want to freeze him out. But for Emery, there's so many possibilities. There's lots of things we don't know. Emery might genuinely want to play Ozil, but the club want to move him on, which is stupid to a degree. But you can't freeze him out, not play him, say these young players deserve more, play with a three-man midfield, but then make him your fifth captain. I have to wonder, why are you making him the fifth captain? That must mean that he holds some influence within this dressing room. Because why are you making people captain? They're meant to be the leaders of men, do you get it? So regardless of what you think about Ozil, he must have friends in that dressing room or be quite cliquey. And obviously, Ozil's probably waiting for Emery to go, if Emery's going to go, and see if things can change. But we'll have to see, man. And in relation to that, Emery said the decision to omit Ozil from the Arsenal team is part of an agreed strategy which has been discussed with the club's executives. That's a bit different from well, I do think it has obviously been discussed, but when Raul was asked, didn't he say something like it's not between Emery and Ozil, but he hopes to see him back in the side. So I do think we're being quite shady as a football club with this. Apologies. And he's also said, previously, we were all speaking between us to take that decision. I know all the supporters want to know something more, but now is not the moment. Emery is going to, ultimately, again, Ozil's not the Messiah, but the problem is creativity. There's no, disregard Ozil, there is no creativity. There's several things not in this side, but there's no creativity. So people are naturally going to look at you, how can you, like, what justification have you shown us in terms of how we're playing to exclude Ozil? If you bring Ozil in and he bottles it, then fine, cool. But it's a dodgy one, and I do think it's one of them. This is one of them where the Arsenal fans with agendas come out, because there are some people with how we've been playing, it's just Emery's fault, Emery out. There's certain Ozil fanboys. There are also people that don't want Ozil. So I do think there's an issue with having a balanced debate surrounding this. But I genuinely feel Emery, regardless of what he does this season, he needs to be very careful, because it's his heel he's going to die on, and he's the only one that's going to be the one to fall on a double-edged sword. I say this because he needs to get top four. If you don't get top four and you win the Europa League, that's not going to keep you a job, in my opinion. You need to get top four. This is your squad now, with the exception of probably Ozil and Mustafi, which you told Mustafi can go. You've got players out. You've kept players that were signed by you or previously existing managers. You've brought in players now. You've brought in young players. This is his squad now, people. And we're looking at it. You're seeing the stuff with Ozil and just no real creativity. One of the first names on the team sheet in Torreira is not being played. And when he is, he's being used in weird different ways. Aubameyang is crossing the ball for other people, and there's really a lack of real service. In terms of an offensive and defensive system, there isn't much to see. So there is a lot of pressure, and excuses like time and all of these things, while he still needs time, obviously, it's not valid. There's no time. Like, nobody expects us, or most logical fans don't expect us to defend like a prime Italian side in the 80s and attack like Barca of 08. We don't. But it's about seeing inroads in what you want to make us become. Rodgers, Leicester might go through a bad patch in their season, but you already see what he wants to do with the club. The only criticism you can have of Lampard's Chelsea team is that they don't keep clean sheets, and that's probably going to be worked on. Immediately, you see what he wants to do. You see little bits and drabs and bits and pieces of what you assume Emery wants to do, but we don't actually know what Emery wants to do, people. And he's been here long enough, and we don't see a footprint or any sort of blueprint to what he wants to do. Sure, I've seen counter-attacking and a bit more rigidness and compactness, but there's not really a system, people. Really and truly. And on the basis of Torreira, he's spoken about Torreira, and he said his squad. Apologies, people. He said, I think he is very important for us. We are sharing and changing some matches with midfielders like Guendouzi. I'm very happy with him, and we need him. Then we use different structures in different matches. He has confidence. I was speaking to him about his best position to help us in our shape. It depends on the shape. Last season, his best position was playing as a deep midfielder, as a deep midfield too, alongside Xhaka or Matteo. This year, we are also sometimes with just one, and we can achieve with his quality to get to the box and to get closer to score. He's very intelligent about getting space around the box and taking chances. Then also, when we prepare the team to do high pressing, for us, he is very important because he is very intelligent tactically, but he can play in two positions, either as one of the midfielders or he can play higher for the pressing and get into the box. Sometimes we could also use him as a one-man in midfield, doing that covering for two different players ahead. Now, let's cut the crap. He's being misused. Now, you either use Torreira as a defensive mid or that person who sits, or I see where Emery's going, but you're using him as an attacking midfielder. For me, you've got to use him as almost a box-to-box, a Vidal sort of thing. What I mean about Vidal is, Vidal's all over the pitch, but he's tigerish, he's stepping in heels, he gets forward, but his job is kind of to break down play. You're using Torreira as almost a 10. Like, that's not Torreira, it's square pegs in round holes. And for me, that's a bit concerning if you really... Because you're more or less saying the shape doesn't fit Torreira. And I can't see how any formation we play suits Xhaka, but not Torreira. Xhaka, I'd probably say, is a bit more of a passer than Torreira, in that you'd probably expect him to try play the cross-field balls. But I don't see why Torreira or Guendouzi cannot do what Xhaka offers, to be fair. Like I said, heels to die on. When you look at the Xhakas, the exclusions of Ozil, the mismanagement of several players, these are hills to die on, people. And it's only going to be Emery's going to be the only guy that gets the clip. Edu, Raul, all of these guys, even if they do want Ozil out or they're not doing the right thing, it's going to be Emery. So I hope for Emery's sake, yeah, if he does literally want to exclude Ozil, or he wants to do what he's doing with the team, he's doing it for his reasons, whether I agree with them or not. Because when that sacking comes, if the sacking comes, and I hope not, he's only going to have himself to blame, people. Like, he's the fall guy for this Mesut Ozil thing. Raul Sanllehi might have been telling him, for instance, yo, freeze this guy out the team. But Raul's not going to be the fall guy, do you get it? It's all Emery versus Ozil. And when you're hearing fans chanting for Ozil, it is concerning. I feel Arsenal fans are a bit mad because some of them were chanting for Arsene Wenger to come back and have been calling for Arsene Wenger to come back. Some people want Jose Mourinho to manage this club, like you didn't see what he did at United. It's a crazy and testing time, people, and we've really got to come together as a club or as a fan base and do better, man, collectively. But finally, in relation to Bellerin has said, if you take away the last 3 games from last season, it would have been a very positive season. Emery has his own ideas. He's done so well at Seville, Valencia and PSG that everyone trusts in the manager. Now, why do Arsenal players always do this? If you take away this game, if you take away their chances, if you take away this and that, it's this. No, I get that, but it's not. We can't. I expect to hear under 16s talking like that, under 15s. We can only deal with the facts. You can't take away them 3 games. It weren't a positive season. It was a season for half. What's that saying, people? Where the glass is half full, half empty sort of thing. Because we missed out by a point and we got to the final of Europa League. Considering where the club was and expectations and where the squad was and Emery's first year and that's not the worst of seasons, people. But on the other hand, that 1 point for me signifies the numerous games we didn't play well enough in, and it also shows you how poor the Europa League campaign was, people. So I don't understand if you take away these 3 games and all of these sort of things. And Bellerin, I got a lot of time for Bellerin, but I don't know what he's smoking there with that one. He's also said, when the board sign a manager like Emery, they know it's all going to be part of a process. This team has evolved a lot since the beginning of last season. I think we are improving as players and the manager is getting to know us every single day. And for us, it is just to keep going forward with our heads up. Now that's true, but I don't, again, you're playing and you're seeing everything, so you have a different opinion. But I don't agree with that. We do not look... The team hasn't really evolved since last season, really. Beyond the only thing that's evidently here since Emery has arrived is playing up from the back. Because I can see the fullbacks are pulling out, centre-halves are splitting, midfielders are dropping. But there's no real intent to do anything with playing out from the back. We just play out from the back for the sake of it. In the same way Emery's got us playing out from the back, nobody can tell me he shouldn't be making inroads in regards to us having a decent defensive system and whatnot. Because or an offensive system. Because it's not as white and black as... Even if Ozil comes into this team, people, which some people are banging on about, Ozil is just Ozil. He's not going to make the difference anyways because it's not him anymore. But there's a problem with creativity. When Ozil starts and he's dropping deep because of how we're trying to play and progress, and he's not creating, and then people sit here and say, oh, Emery was right, or this and that. It's a problem. There's problems with the whole team. How we play in terms of creativity isn't as white as black as bringing in Ozil. How we defend better as a team isn't as white and black as Tierney, Holding, Bellerin. For what was said for weeks, they come in, we're better. It needs to be a structure and it needs to be a system. And Emery's had long enough, people. It's not there right now. I don't want Emery to get sacked. I don't want the Wolves to come out for him. But I told you these things were happening purely because these were happening last season and people were just shutting up about things. Even look at the Bournemouth game, people. People are like, oh, why that game? Oh, we finished, we're third now, blah, blah, blah. What's the point? We got away with it against Bournemouth. We didn't get away with it against Sheffield. We didn't get away with it against Watford. We definitely didn't get away with it against Liverpool away from home. And we can't. That's a dangerous thought process to have in regards to a Premier League season, people. But let's just see what Palace is saying. I'm going to be at the Emirates. So, yeah, man. On that note, people, DG, I'm out.